Good evening. What a week of football we've had, with a top five now starting to develop. Belle's not laughing at me, I'm trying to do the intro. This is outrageous.
No, I'm just laughing at how the top five is developing.
The top five is developing nicely. Elsewhere, Chelsea in the mud, Manchester United in the mud, normal service is resumed, and Sheffield United, probably the worst Premier League team I've ever seen. All of that and more on today's episode of From the Back Seat. And it's different today because Hugh's not here. He's not been cut, he's just not here. Because we've got new, fresh blood and fresh energy. And one of them's been here before, and that's Joseph Doherty, our Chelsea correspondent. Welcome back to the pod, Joe. It's really nice to have you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. I thought I was banned after last time, but you guys keep reeling me back in. So.
No, you completed your suspension period, and it's been reset to 0, so it's all good. It's a new season, new vibes.
I appreciate you leaving me out whilst Chelsea was having a bit of a mare. That's quite nice. And now back in the fray where I need to be.
I'm sorry, I've completely lost you there, but don't worry about it. That's a technical problem, which is one take, so I'm sure it'll be fine. It will resolve itself. He looks confused. It'll be fine. And then we have someone brand new as well, which is Belle, our new Tottenham correspondent, and probably the most Tottenham mad person I think I've ever met.
I am blessed. Thank you so much for having me on.
I'm excited. There's never been a better time to have a Tottenham correspondent. And I was kind of hoping when we booked you in that this would be the week where it all started to fall apart. But no, they continue to ride out their luck and be jammy and enjoy their sad little life, having the best Premier League start of all time. So we will talk about that a lot more. But I think the first game, the main game of the weekend, was Manchester Derby. So Manchester United 0, Manchester City 3. You both watched it. So I'm going to give you some stats and I'm just going to let you just talk about how you feel, really. How do you feel? Here's something interesting. How many goals do you think the Manchester United front six attackers have contributed this season? Goals and assists. Martial, Rashford, Sancho, Anthony, Haaland and Garnacho.
That's tough.
Maybe a total of about, let's say, unlucky number 13.
That seems too high.
Yeah, this season.
This season?
6.
It's 2. It's 2. It's mental. It's 2. Rashford's got a goal and assist, and that's it. The rest of them have contributed absolutely nothing. And I feel like that's a good summary of why Manchester United are so bad at the moment. Like, their backline was atrocious in this game, but also they have absolutely no goals in their team outside of, like, McTominay being on fire or, like, Fernandes doing something. That's basically it. And then you compare that with City, and there's just goals everywhere, especially one man in particular. So, yeah, pretty mismatched.
I read something yesterday that said that apparently United and City have actually spent the exact same amount of money since Alex Ferguson left.
That's so disgraceful. That's actually so disgraceful that they could be this far apart. They've spent so much money, Manchester United. I know Glazers are terrible owners, but they actually spend loads of money. They're not the worst owners in the world. Let's be real.
How much do you think? I don't know how much they spent on Ronaldo, but I'm guessing that's a chunk of it.
I don't remember.
Are we counting wages here or just the full-on price?
That I don't know.
That is the good question. With wages, I mean, you're looking at a Saudi penny. With just the price paid, not so much.
But it's not even just that. It's like, when was the last time Manchester United actually bought someone good? Who was actually a good signing? Like, look at the summer. Mason Mount. What's happened to Mason Mount already? Not playing the big games. Not fitting in.
Good question.
Casemiro.
Good question.
He's chunky now. He just can't be asked. Amrabat is average. They got World Cup fever and they thought he was good. He's rubbish. He's just so average. And then Haaland.
I think Onana is good.
Sounds like Haaland. You think Onana is good?
You think Onana's
good? Interesting.
Yeah,
it's quite controversial.
I think he was good yesterday, and I think.
Do you think that's quite a low bar when you lose 3-0?
I think he was good at
Ajax.
I don't know. I mean, I have quite a low bar in terms of goalkeepers. As I've had Lloris for like 10 years. I used to, really until now.
You know what they say, United shirt weighs heavy. And it really does, But if you look at their front line, who have we really got? We've got Anthony. He's a bag of tricks, and they're all shit. We got Højlund, who actually looks quite decent. Rashford, he is an anomaly to me because he is so fantastic sometimes.
When he
He's
wants a new
got
contract.
goals and assists, exactly, goals and assists out of his ears when he wants to, aka when he wants to get paid another 350 grand a week. But now, it's like he just disappears. But you watch the games, and it's not for want of trying. So it just really baffles me. And he still could get in the World Cup squad. I can see it, and it's. I mean, fortunately, he's not bringing it to the league because I am perfectly happy to see United not do so well.
As am I, mate. I think it's something that collectively we can always enjoy. Like, they are always the villain. And just watching them be terrible. Watching a back line of Johnny Evans and Harry Maguire as well is just like, how is it possible to spend £1 billion and be here? Like, this
I don't know
crazy.
why Harry Maguire is still there. I honestly thought he was going.
Because they couldn't get rid of him because they were like 40 mil. If you don't pay 40 mil, you can't have Harry Maguire. And no one wanted to pay 40 mil. So they just kept him.
Do you think this is like the England legacy situation? Like everyone just thinks that immediately once you've got enough caps for England, that automatically increases your value hugely?
I think so. I also think Manchester United are terrible at selling players, and they will price themselves out of selling a player every summer and just set like unrealistic asking prices and then extend their contract another year and another year so that they can maintain that value that doesn't exist. So I think I agree with you because he's English, he's inflated, but it's also a Manchester United problem, I think. Like, they tried to sell McTominay, couldn't get rid of him either.
True. In Maguire's case, though, I think they actually said yes to a bid from West Ham in the summer.
Yeah,
and
that's
he
what I
decided
thought.
not to go.
Greedy boy. He must be on a lot of money at Manchester United.
Yeah. I think it's depressing.
Me too. So I guess in terms of points in the game, I thought like some of the defending was pretty horrendous at times. I feel like 3-0 was quite good. This was actually the second like highest XG that anyone's ever got in the Premier League. So Man City got an XG of 4. They only scored 3 goals. This could have easily been a 6-0 on another day, which shows how bad it is. And I guess it raises the question, is Erik ten Hag, is he doomed now? Is it just the slow death of another Man United manager and the cycle continues? And then they buy a whole host of new players who don't quite fit in with the current squad. And we just start again from year 0. And then in 2 years, we just replay this episode and go again.
Good point. I think Man United in general are doomed right now with the players they've got and what's in the stable. There's no chance for them to improve. I just don't see that squad of players gelling under any manager.
I mean,
if I was them, I would keep him. Ten Hag, he seems to be a disciplinarian. Sorry, he seems to know what he wants in terms of culture and style. So maybe it's just a case that he needs the players to do it.
Yeah, but it's pretty slim pickings when you've got to bring on Reguilón. So I think there's, I think they're going to be hoping for something to happen in January, and I think if the Ten Hag situation is so uncertain, then they're not going to put any money into it.
Do you think
I don't know who else would they bring in though. Conte is the only person I know off the top of my head that's looking.
Oh, fuck me. Can you imagine bringing Conte in there? That would last about 3 months. That'd be so fun to watch.
I can tell you now, I have lived it, and you have lived it.
You've both lived it. The trauma of Conte. 2 Conte survivors. And how do you feel?
Honestly, I don't even like talking about it. I had to go to therapy. No, that's not even a joke.
I know it was not.
An unhinged experience under Conte. But
I'm excited
also
to dig
laced
into
in
that.
tragedy.
I really liked it. We won the Premier League. He won he was a really good manager for us. Do you remember like Diego Costa's big time game? He scored 25 goals that season. He was awesome. For us, Conte was number 1 until that next season. And then the what we would call the standards of Conte mood changed, didn't it? and he became a little bit more testy.
That's one word for it. I think maybe that's the thing as well, is that there are some managers like Jose, like Conte, who once they've set a certain standard for themselves, then I don't really understand why they go to clubs that need a lot of work and then are immediately pissed off about it. They want to go to clubs where it's guaranteed that they're all good, like a club like City, where you just expected to win everything. United, I don't think there's not enough confidence behind them right now to take a manager who is already established.
Yeah, agreed there. I don't really know what his problem is. He doesn't seem to actually want to do any work anymore. I think that's part of the issue. A bit like Mourinho. It's like they don't like that you have to work a lot harder these days and you have to be like a good person on top of being a hard worker. They just want to go back to the old times where they just tell people what to do and they do it. It's just a simpler time, really. They're legacy managers.
Here's a thought for you guys. After a player gets paid after a certain amount of salary, let's say 300,000 a week, do you think they automatically just stop caring?
Are you talking about anyone in particular? Maybe Jadon Sancho? Because I agree when it comes to Jadon Sancho. Why pay him 350k a week and then expect him to turn up for training on time? It's guaranteed.
I would say the same for Tanguy and Ndombele. No one wants to play him. He's our second most expensive signing of all time.
Is he still there?
He's on loan.
Again?
Okay, so basically his contract runs up this coming summer, and basically we're all saying that we're going to have a party, not because we've won the league, but because we've finally shifted Ndombele.
How much money is he on, out of interest?
I don't know on a salary basis, but I think it was like a 95, was it 95 mil? It was something unhinged. Like, it was not precedented on any level. But there was high hopes. He scored like 2 goals, then he just became unbearable.
Yeah.
Shocking stuff.
And no one started him.
And
no manager could get past him. Like, because that's the thing. I think he must have had 5 or 6 managers in the time that he's been at Spurs, and not a single one has wanted to play him.
Well, that's the only other kind of argument I can say is Man City. If you are Man City, this doesn't count. Everyone's on the wage, doesn't matter. They only have 115 financial fair play breaches, and you know, that's the club's problem. The players are all laughing.
Yeah, it's a good point. Before we move on, is there anything you want to add about Man City? Because it's my least favourite topic. I kind of hate Man City, and so we give them pretty much no airtime. Because what do you say? Haaland's really good at scoring goals. Man City are really good at football, and it's actually just quite tedious. They never concede the first goal. There's no jeopardy. They just grind out wins unless Rodri's injured, and then that's it.
You know, my favourite thing is when I look at that video of when they won the treble and all the fans are just on their phones, like looking at like the horse racing or something. They don't even care. No one's even smiling.
It's because they're only 2 years old. They're only just getting to grips with like what is football. They're not real fans. They're not real people. I've never met a Man City fan. Like, if we wanted to get a Man City correspondent, it would be so hard. We'd have to go to Manchester and find them.
I actually used to live with this Man City fan.
And when did they start liking football? Was it in the last 5 years?
It was not, actually. It was when she was about 6 years old.
Okay.
But she gets a lot of hate.
Yeah, it's justified.
What is a real fan?
I think a real fan is someone who didn't... Well, for Man City, it's someone who started supporting them before they became this elite like team, basically. That's what I'd say. I think if you chose to support a team because they were the best at that time, that's not a good thing. Okay, that's weird. We've lost Joe, but that's okay because we'll just carry on, I guess. But yeah, I think anyone who started supporting City because they won a treble is, to me, not a real fan. But maybe that's not a good way of looking at it. Maybe that's just modern fans now.
Well, I think it's interesting, isn't it? Because I think that a lot of people, accessibility is what kind of helps you become a fan, right? And I think that it's obviously incredibly expensive and difficult to get into any of these like top 6 clubs just in terms of like visibility on the ground. So yeah, you could be a glory hunter and just watch match of the day and then talk about it. But I think for me at least, I don't believe you have to physically be there to be a fan, because obviously a lot of people support from all around the world. But I really don't like this idea that you're only a fan if you were born into it or if you've stuck out long enough through the shit. So I think also there's a lot of people who obviously support like championship teams and stuff who what they get out of football isn't trophies or expecting loads of glory. It's just like having something to talk about with people that they like. So yeah.
And if you think about America, and for the American listeners, we're talking to you right here. There are people who have just joined the football Premier League communion from America. And how can you say to them that you can't love Blackburn Rovers just because you weren't born in Blackburn? It's ludicrous. And I've met some of the staunchest Premier League football supporters out in America. I mean, they may still call it soccer, but they are rather brilliant in their own little way.
I think if you're willing to wake up at like 7 o'clock in the morning or 4 o'clock in the morning to watch football, then I have serious hats off to you, because I couldn't do that.
You are not wrong. Arguably, you are a more dedicated fan than the people that live around the corner at that point, because like that is inconveniencing your whole life to base it just around like supporting a team, watching football. Have you watched the Wrexham documentary? Because there's like some fans from like Japan or something and like Australia. They come all the way to Wrexham just because of the series to watch fifth tier English football, and they're just like, I love Wrexham so much. You're like, how has this happened? It's like the power of content, just a bit of like stories, and they're like, oh my god, it's Keith who owns the fish and chip shop. Oh, can I have a photo?
Let's get down the turf.
Yeah, I'm so mad. So you can get people hooked on anything with the right backstory.
I love Wrexham from that show. It's a great show. It's a great story. Too.
Yeah, I do really like it as well. It's dangerous.
Final question for you guys on this game, though, just while we're in the conversational spirit. What has happened to Jack Grealish? Where's he gone?
Yeah.
He was never that good, mate. He just had great calves and little socks. That's what I reckon. No, I think, wasn't he injured for a bit? And then also it's like a meritocracy. So Doku looks really good. He looks fun. So there's just no space for him currently. But I feel like he was always a rotational player anyway. He's not an undroppable player in City. There's only like 3 or 4 of them. Like the spine, everyone else is interchangeable.
Do you remember though when Conte, Diego Costa dropped a bowl of water on Conte's head during that press conference? Then suddenly he's the bad guy. Do you think Jack Grealish, since his antics when they won the Champions League and the Premier League and the treble, going out, getting drunk, slapping Guardiola on the back of the head and calling him Baldy? Don't know if that actually happened, by the way, but all of the antics, I can imagine Guardiola is not the kind of person who enjoys that kind of person around him.
I mean, to be honest with you, I think, and this is making me think about the Beckham doc. I think that Guardiola needs a reminder that in like British football, there are going to be homegrown players who don't come from huge amounts of the same experiences. Like they've all this is the thing, is that Jack Grealish at the end of the day was extremely coddled and familiar with at Villa. Couldn't put a foot wrong. I'm sure got little slaps on the wrist and nothing ever came of it. And I think he's gone from big fish, small pond into throwing himself into a situation where, just like you were saying earlier, is he in it for the money because he knows he's not going to get all the game time? And I think maybe he's a little bit frustrated at not having that big fish mentality anymore.
Yeah.
But we should allow it, because this is not just one personality's
I think it's fine.
football.
Like, he's maxed out his career in a way that a lot of people don't get the opportunity to. But you are right, Joe. He is not a good professional, which is quite surprising that Guardiola is so patient with him. So maybe he's just been waiting to kind of slowly move him on. Also, bit tinfoil hat, but Man City do need X number of English players to play in the Champions League. and that's why they bought him. So there is that.
And they sold us Cole Palmer. So
yeah, that was a weird one. That was a really weird one, actually.
I will save that to our Chelsea segment.
Yeah,
but
it's part
I have
2.
words to say. Yes.
There you go, listener. If you like Cole Palmer and you want to hear Joe's opinion, yes, stick around part 2. Okay, let's move on to Arsenal. You both don't like Arsenal, so this will be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But Arsenal won 5-0 against Sheffield United, and Eddie Nketiah got his first ever Premier League hat-trick. Isn't that nice? Isn't that nice? Homegrown player, getting his first hat-trick, giving the ball to his mate for a penalty because they're having a baby. It's just good vibes, really, isn't it, guys? It's just really good vibes.
Is it?
I
think it's great vibes. I'm here for it, personally.
And I put forward a proposal for you guys, and I don't know if it's nothing to do with the Arsenal game. Sorry, Gunners. Sorry, guys. But wouldn't it be funny if Tottenham became the Invincibles Part 2?
This would be carnage. North London would be on fire.
I'm not even really able to answer that right now. I'm trying to be as...
Belle's having an anxiety attack just thinking about it right now.
It's just so great. When you're playing really shit, you're just miserable. But when you're playing really good, you're also miserable because it's like, when is it gonna? But no, back to the Arsenal game. Unsurprisingly,
just going to move past that. All right, we'll try again later.
No, we will come back to that for sure. No, unsurprisingly, I decided not to watch the highlights after I saw the score.
That's very fair.
So I have not very much to contribute on that, except that I think from a Tottenham perspective, I'm aware that the experience of what they went through last season is only going to have strengthened their situation right now. Obviously, we're the only 2 unbeaten sides. I think they probably have a bit more. Well, they obviously have more experience of this. I also think, as well, just a little note on Arsenal, the way that other parts of Arsenal Football Club has really come up in terms of women's football. There is a huge new kind of resurgence of popularity and interest in the general Arsenal fan base, which I think, and a lot more money going into it, a lot more kind of sponsorships and stuff going on. So I think Arsenal is just on the brain right now in a way that it hasn't been for a while. And I personally don't really like it.
It was all sounding so wholesome. I was like, who are you? What's going on here? You're not wrong, though. The point about women's football and the Arsenal team, I'm looking at some of their transfers. I'm interested. I'm reading about it. It's just an awareness piece. I remember we went to Bath for Em's birthday, and it was it the Euros or the World Cup? It was the World Cup, wasn't it? The World Cup was on, and it was just on in all the pubs, and it was just people just watching it, and I was like, this would have literally never happened even 2 years ago. It's just people walk over and be like, "What's the score, mate?" And I'll be like, "Oh, mate, it's 1-0." They'll be like, "Oh, sick!" And you're just like, "This is mental," This guy who doesn't look like he cares about women's football bloody loves it, and it's taken no time. And everyone was talking about it all the time. So I'm massively here for it, and I find it very interesting looking at the Ballon d'Or, how much I know about it now within months.
No, I think that it's interesting. I went to watch England USA in a friendly last year, and at Wembley, and I was genuinely so enthralled. I couldn't take my eyes off the ball. I was absolutely enamored with the style of football that was so much more creative, so much more bitey, so much more drama, and just so much more togetherness in the stadium than I've ever seen at a men's England game. And I was genuinely 100 times would rather go and see that than go and see men's England under Southgate right now. Controversial.
100%. No, I think you're right. It's a unifying experience. It's a different experience. It got too tribal. It's way too tribal because of club football in the men's game now. There are certain players that people hate. It's become less tribal, but it's still pretty bad. Well, I think everyone's just rooting for the women's team to just do well. There's not that toxicness yet.
Bring us back to the Arsenal game, guys. Speaking of tribalism, 2 fans here not wanting to talk about Arsenal. It was brilliant. It was a brilliant game. They did very well. 5-0. Anyone who scores 5 goals in a game, and Nketiah with a hat-trick, absolutely fantastic. But can we just talk about a young man called Saka?
Oh yeah, I thought you were going to go a different way there. Yeah, of course, mate. Go ahead.
But Saka he is an absolute champion right now. He's on fire. You see every single thing he does. He's always cutting in from that left-hand side, always shooting, always making assists. I think I read an interesting stat around him coming level with Ian Wright for scoring or assisting in 6 consecutive games. I mean, it's pretty
correct.
ridiculous right now.
But when you play Sheffield United and they win 5-0 and he doesn't break that record, you think, bro, come on. Like, what are you doing at that point? How has Saka got 2 FPL points from this fixture? It's mental.
It's true. It's true that it's a team game, and even though
sounded very much like a post-match footballer right now. It's all about the team at the end of the day, guys. It's all about the 3 points.
It's what Kai Havertz says every single game. It's a team game.
I bet he does. He's got nothing else to cling on to. Emil Smith-Rowe is coming for his spot.
63 million. Oh, that was fantastic. Thank you, Arsenal. Thank you.
It's nice because you can finally stop pretending that he's good now, and you can actually just see with your eyes finally that he's so bad. But anyway, speaking of bad, Sheffield United, so bad. Oh my God. The fact that they lost 5-0 and this is not even their worst defeat of the season, it's only 10 games long, is mental.
Are you suggesting that Paul Heckingbottom cannot remove them from despair?
I honestly would go as far as saying that if you hire Paul Heckingbottom or anyone who's got bottom in their name, you're going to be bottom. You've manifested it yourself. You've only got yourself to blame.
You say that, but Sheffield United is one of Tottenham's bogey teams. They knocked us out the FA Cup last season. Well, we played them already this season, and we managed to win, but only in the 105th minute. Otherwise, it was. I think that says more about Tottenham, really, if I'm honest. Says more about Tottenham than Sheffield United. But yeah.
You must ask, Sheffield United, what are their owners doing? They got rid of their 2 best players in the summer coming up from the Championship. Sander Berger, Sander Berger. Sandra is going back to the women's game, but Sander Berger, who moved to...
Did he move to Burnley?
Burnley, if I remember rightly. And then you have Ndiaye, who's absolutely smashing it up for Marseille right now. And I get it. They brought in Archer from Aston Villa just to kind of supplement. But realistically, they're not going to make inroads without investment if you come up to the Premier League. So
I don't even think they should bother at this point. I honestly think they're so bad, they might as well just take the money and just go back down and just pretend it's never happened.
That's the honestly, worst think thing. About They'll probably buy players in January. They're probably going to go invest in January. It's the same mistake as they all make.
I think just get a couple loan players, try and get over 15 points. But they've got 1 point. This is the worst Premier League start in history. They've got 1 point after 10 games. That means after 38 games, based on this, they might have 4 or 5 points. Goal difference is minus 22 after 10 games. They are so bad. They're so bad. I think they're the worst Premier League team I've ever seen so far. I don't even think that's unfair. They're honestly so shit. And I just think, what poor bunch of people, those away fans that go from Sheffield to London or to Newcastle every weekend, pay a couple £100, they go up there, they get absolutely battered 4-0, and they come home in the rain and the cold and they just sit down at dinner and they're like, 37 more games of this. It's just so depressing.
Football fan, it can be a source of masochism sometimes, can't it?
100%. Yeah.
They will celebrate any win like they've won the whole Premier League, I think, at this point. Breaking 15 points will be like they won. They're going down. They're going down hard.
Yeah, but then do you think, I guess sort of to counter that, don't you think that we have certain expectations of what we think constitutes having a good time with our football club, which I guess in your case is trophies and stuff. But then if the biggest thing that happened to them was coming up to the... It's if the biggest thing was actually going to, coming up to the Premier League, that is probably they already know that's I actually set myself up for that,
So what's your definition of success?
For me, it's not going home and crying into my dinner every night, so I'm having a great time.
Oh dear! I'm so sorry for Chelsea. For you guys with Chelsea and Liverpool, your definition is just trophies and stuff. With Tottenham, it's
just about vibes, really, isn't it?
It's just about vibes. New stadium, few chants at Daniel Levy, a little bit of some expensive pies in the new stadium. That's all about the fun. Family day out.
The pies are ridiculously expensive, but the pints do fill up from the bottom, so that's where all the money goes.
That. I don't understand the logistics
started
of it.
from the bottom. Now we're here. There we go.
Well, now we're top of the league, so
accurate.
But yeah, no, I think back to what I was saying is that it's interesting. I've got a couple of Fulham friends. I've got family who support Ipswich. I think that there is a sort of a lot of people that I know feel quite like snidely towards people who support top six clubs because they know that at the end of the day, like what's important to being a football fan is literally just committing to something that hurts, that is shit, and not having high expectations and kind of like holding each other's hand through the horrors. And so coming up and qualifying for the Premier League is the biggest thing that's ever going to happen to Sheffield. So they've had that.
I don't disagree with you on a lot of those points. All I'd say is that last time they came up, they were quite revolutionary. You know, they were playing this like marauding centre-back, wing-back system, and they were like shocking a lot of people. So they have had it a lot better when they came up. Like, you don't have to have such a bad time. This is the worst time anyone's ever had. You know,
well,
of all
the Premier do you want to find one to bring on the pod?
I don't think it'd be possible. I'd love to, but do you know what? I'll think about it. I'll see what can be done. I'm conscious of time because part one's almost over, but I'm going to try and bosh out Liverpool really quickly. Liverpool 3, Nottingham Forest 0. Okay, good news. Szoboszlai is very good at football. 2 assists. Love that guy. He's the best midfielder we've signed in a long time, so that's nice. That's nice for us, isn't it? We just smashed it. Could have bought Mason Mount. Wanted Mason Mount. Look at us now. Don't even need him. Bellingham who? Szoboszlai. So that's great. Gravenberch looks good as well. We got him really cheap. Unbelievably cheap. Even cheaper than Madison, which I think was the best signing of the summer. And everything's looking great at Liverpool right now. We look like a much better team than last season. We look much more functional. We score goals across the front line consistently. And it seems like we're actually... We basically do boom and bust seasons. So last season was a bust. This is going to be a boom one. Next season will be a bust again. So I'm hoping that we can be in some kind of 4 or 5 5-horse title race for like as long as possible, at least till February.
What do you think changed?
Bought a whole new midfield. It's honestly that simple. We had like Henderson, who I think we all got in the trap of defending Henderson playing really bad football by just saying he's a really good leader though. And then
but this is exactly what I was referring to about the England being like an England player just suddenly apparently elevates someone.
Yeah, exactly that. And like a lot of the younger players have come on. I feel like, yeah, we're just playing for something again. I feel like we can't go really hard for 2 seasons in a row for some reason. We need like a point to prove, which is why we do these boom and bust patterns. All I'm going to say to keep it quick is Nottingham Forest goalie is very, very bad, I'd say. Matt Turner from Arsenal. He's very, very bad at football, and he was very bad in this game. He came to get the ball for the 3rd goal and just completely missed it and just left an open goal, which was really bad. But he's been bad all season. And I just think they had, last season, Dean Henderson for the first half, and then Keylor Navas for the second half. And they were great. And then they've got Matt Turner, who Arsenal were literally trying to give away. And you think, like, how's this happened? How have they not managed to secure one of those two on another loan at least? So I'm a bit worried about them.
They bought about 20 players in the window. It seems
they chose this
very
guy.
Strange.
They chose him. He's awful. But
Liverpool doing very well. So you guys are slowly picking up points. Kind of in the background, really. I don't know, kind of going under the radar. You know, Salah is cooking a little bit. Darwin's cooking.
It's all coming together, bro. Salah's
can you tell me how is McAllister doing? Because you watch the highlights and you watch the games, and they you see him in the background, but you don't really pay a lot of attention to him.
So I think he's not playing to his full potential, but he's playing like a very disciplined role. You know, he's being the deepest midfielder, he's doing like a lot of the simple but important work so that Szoboszlai can just bosh around and like be box to box. So I think he's playing within himself, but until we get a proper defensive midfielder, this is just his lot. It'd be nice to see them in tandem, kind of, being two box to box, a bit like Arsenal's system with two number 8s that do that and operate like that. But for now, he's doing the dirty work and he's a bloody good lad, and I'm here for it.
What do you want to see in January?
I wouldn't mind another centre-back because we're always very close to like a very tired Joel Matip or a very average Joe Gomez. I wouldn't mind another centre-back or a defensive midfielder, but I don't think we'll sign anyone because that's not what we do. We don't sign people in January. We just talk about it a lot and then we don't sign anyone. But I'm not opposed to it.
Do you know who's available? Maguire.
Yeah, I'll probably pass on that one. But do you know who would be a good stopgap?
Eric Dyer.
Oh, fuck me. He would fill both of those positions on paper, but
I
in
wouldn't wish
reality,
it on anyone.
neither. He's so shit. I've always said it, and I don't know how he keeps getting games. But anyway, that's enough for part 1. So please come back for part 2, and we'll see you in a sec. Welcome back to From the Back Seat. So it's the bit you've been waiting for. That's why we have correspondents, so they can talk about how painful they feel or how elated they feel. First up is pain, and it's Chelsea 0, Brentford 2. Before I let you unleash, Brentford have more home wins than Chelsea at Stamford Bridge this year, I think.
Yeah,
that's
doing
mental.
Quite well, aren't they?
They've got 2. So that's an interesting one. So
it's awful, isn't it? It's awful. But I feel like Brentford, they came to do what they wanted to do, which was to shut up shop. They came low block. They put all the men behind the ball. Standard, when the team comes to play Chelsea, they just want to stop us. They don't really care about playing football or doing anything useful. But on the back of that, Ethan Pinnock got a nice goal.
He did.
Standard centre-back goal. When I was watching the game, I knew that after all of our good play, if someone's going to be scoring against us, it will probably be a centre-back. And then, of course, the icing on the cake was that the goal when Sanchez was up for the corner, just to nicely run it through.
One of my favourites.
Take the finish, but overall,
wait. Before can we spend at least one more second just talking about how funny Sanchez was, and also how shit Neil Maupay is to be throwing an open goal and not even get an assist.
Fair play to Sanchez. He was the one that was actually sprinting back. He even tried to make a little foul there at the end before the goal went in. So I respect that. If he rugby tackled the geezer, I also would have respected that. But, the goal was going. It was the end of the game. We'd lost. I don't care. It's fine. No Chelsea fan is going to care about that goal. Unless, maybe the most staunchant Chelsea fan who's already done a lot of self-flagellation that day might be unhappy about the goal. But for me, no, it was okay. We'd lost, but I must say we are looking good. It's a bit of an oxymoron that, but I think that under Poch we are actually playing some really good football. We're winning the stats game. We're involving some new young players. We have a huge injury list, and I think that actually when you watch the game, unlike when I was watching the games towards the end of Tuchel's era, especially in Lampard's era, oh my Christ, it was boring. It was so boring. And now you actually watch the games and they actually are quite entertaining, albeit that maybe we're not scoring the goals right now. And guys, we have to remember, we're coming off of 3 wins on the bounce. Or was it 3 wins and then a draw at Arsenal? That's really good going, That's not bad.
Such a bloody low bar, man. Yeah, you're not wrong, but that is such a low bar to hang on to. But got some bloody points, guys. Like, it's not all bad.
Look, it's a trust the process. trust the process. You know, if
Mm-hmm.
Poch keeps on having these barbecues and we keep on giving the players a good environment to grow in, you've got a couple of young guys there that really, you know, they show a lot of quality. Cole Palmer being one of them, absolutely fantastic player.
Mm-hmm.
Mudryk is starting to turn the burners on. Shame that we couldn't play him in this game because of a small injury. I definitely think that Armando Broja is a striker for the future. And on the right-hand side, happy to have Sterling play there. Happy to have any one of the remainder play on that side. I see a lot in there that's positive, especially Gallagher, Enzo, and Caicedo being the kind of focal point for our midfield. I would suggest it would be a struggle to find a better midfield in the Premier League. And I know that both of you are going to say, "Oh, what are you talking about?" But let's be honest, guys. Let's all.
You do know that you lost this game, yeah, 2-0 to Brentford's superior midfield of like unknown fucking Norwegian players. But yeah, we moved.
If you put all your men behind the bar and play behind the ball and play a low block, you know,
you're
there's
allowed
always a chance.
to, though. The best midfields are versatile. They can break down teams that sit back. They can hurt you on the counter. They can dominate you. If yours can only do one thing, then it's not that good. Would be my point. And most teams are going to sit back against Chelsea because they know that you can't score any goals, and they know that if they frustrate you, they will get chances. So I'd say this is going to be a common theme, and if your midfield can't deal with that, then it's not a good midfield for Chelsea.
The stats would say that we're doing quite well.
The stats do say that. Would you say it's as simple as Nkunku just being brought in because he did seem to make everything work a lot better in pre-season?
Oh, well, thank you, Jack. You kind of just set me up there. We've got Nkunku coming back, and Reece James has been seen on the pitch again. So, you know, there is some positivity here.
Don't worry about Reece James, mate. It's only going to be 2 games before he's back on that hospital bed.
True. I think it's good that you're saying to trust the process, because I think obviously Poch of all people would have been brought in to deal with the carnage, the rubble. And it's definitely not going to be like an overnight turnaround. So my question for you would be, what is your realistic expectation of where you're going to place, and what do you actually want?
Good question. This season, between 5th and 7th, that's where I think we'll place.
Mm-hmm.
I would like top 4. Next season, top 4.
The season outrageous. After, can't believe from a Tottenham fan as well. Just because he's top of the league, it's gone to your head.
The season after, can someone just the season after, we're going to win the fucking league.
There it is.
There it is.
You heard it here first. Put your bets on.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting, isn't it? Because I feel like this season, more than any before, it feels like there's basically no such thing as a mid-table anymore. I think everyone's playing towards like a top 6. You're looking at like Villa, Brighton, Brentford, Newcastle. Like if you think about how many teams are actually playing to a standard that they haven't previously, and I'm guessing a lot of this would be, money. Then I think it'd be very difficult to place where everyone's going to end up. And I think we should all completely re-level our expectations of like what is a successful finish. If we're now looking at more like a top 10 than a top 6.
Absolutely. Clubs are either spending, Aston Villa spends good money, or they're doing whatever the hell Brighton's doing, where they're just somehow generating a profit and getting better every season. So,
I'm going to pull you up there. You say somehow. I have a pretty obvious theory. It's because Chelsea keep giving them loads of money.
Oh, I can see the cat's got his claws out today. All right, so...
I've got so many Chelsea things that I wanted.
Let's draw this back. So, Cucurella, he's playing well right now. Caicedo, playing well. Shall I go on?
Yeah, sure.
Are there any other players we've purchased?
Well, there's Graham Potter and the whole team. That was a big one. Sanchez, the goalie, I'd say mixed so far, probably. Mixed
reviews, yeah. But overall, I think, to end the Chelsea segment on a high, I think that we're going to do well. I don't think this is the season. I think next season or the season after, but Pochettino has been brought in to do a job. That job is not a short-term job. Daddy Todd, I think, is suddenly starting to learn a little bit about football. And, I do think we've got a good setup around us with everything that's going on to do well in the future. So all we need is one, elite striker.
He's coming.
With Broha in the background doing like the second striker job. Jackson, maybe that he could be that striker, maybe, but he's not shown it yet.
I think that's a good summary. I just think you've bought a lot of players for very high fees who don't have a lot of actual football under their belts, and you're kind of having to do the, like you buy, so like Brighton would do a lot of this work for you, right? They'd turn them into really good players, and then you buy them. You're having to do the Brighton work, where you'd want them to be Chelsea level.
Yeah. Evan Ferguson will be there in 2 seasons' time, and then we'll be happy.
120 mil striker. But yeah, okay, surprisingly positive. I thought that was going to be more negative, a bit disappointing. We'll see, because it's Chelsea Spurs next week. And speaking of Spurs, Crystal Palace 1, Tottenham Hotspur 2. The best ever Premier League start to a season, and the best ever start for a new Premier League manager. What's going on?
What is actually going on?
I was really hoping you'd tell us.
I will. I mean, I think first of all, I think it's actually done everyone a world of good to have no expectations at all for a manager who's never played in the Prem to come in, and not only are all the Tottenham fans behind him, but everyone, to my knowledge, is fully backing this guy. I think that he's so he talks with complete sort of self-awareness, it brings a very kind of brings like a humility with him, and also isn't afraid to take the piss out of himself. I think it's very clear that yes, we are taking Pep tactics. I guess everyone tries to, or everyone would understand why.
It would be silly not to. It would be quite egotistical to not look at what best teams are doing and be like, I'll take a bit of that.
No, but I just think, in terms of even when you even when in interviews the players are saying, there is no kind of there's complete transparency between the players saying this is how we want to play, and Ange saying, okay, cool, let me facilitate your way of playing. I think it's the most important thing is that we are now watching the exact style of football that we've been missing ever since Poch era, and actually I think feels better than Poch era, I would say. I think it's also because Kane... Hold on, I'm launching into like a whole context of Spurs before actually mentioning the game. Let's go backwards.
That's fine.
So
no, it's absolutely fine. We've got plenty of episodes to do the game, I feel like it's just interesting. What's the vibe? So for context listener, Belle goes to like basically all the games. So if anyone knows what's the vibe, she knows what's the vibe.
I was saying before we actually started recording, so I'm on the waiting list for a season ticket, but I'm still currently to this day like searching far and wide to get a ticket for every single game. And so I'm always on the lookout if anyone's listening. I think the game on Friday against Palace, I think it showed that there are still a lot of gaps. I think that we aren't confident in who's taking our set pieces. I think I don't ever want to see Basuma take a free kick again.
Is it not just Maddison? Is it not always just Maddison?
So it's not always just Maddison, and I think also Ange likes to take Sonny and Maddison off at exactly 70 minutes every single game that we play. And when the games are now looking at 100, 105, 110 minutes long, we're actually losing our key players for a huge section of the game. And I don't really think we have the depth of bench there to cover that. I think the second that Maddis gets injured, we're fucked. And I think it's interesting because now that we've kind of decided that Sonny's looking best in the middle, it's shifted everybody else around where there are certain key players like just trying to think. It's difficult because when there's people like, for example, Perisic or Solomon who are injured, then it's hard to fit that gap. And Richarlison isn't finishing like we want him to.
He's not that guy. You wasted your money there. He's actually not that guy. I'd say
I know.
Kulusevski's not been very good either. Because at points last season, I was convinced that he was going to be the best winger in the whole league. He
Are you
looked
talking
unplayable.
about the season before?
Yeah, where you started so well, and I was like, this is actually hurting my brain to comprehend why we didn't just buy Kulusevski. Yeah. But now he seems to just be pretty just a passenger. Not a passenger, but he's not really influencing games in the way that he was before.
I have to disagree. I think he had a shit season last season, and then I think under Ange he's definitely come into his own. But I think the problem is that now that we're playing a lot more tight, there's just less. We're just crossing over a lot less. So I think he's kind of refocused. Where he's doing now is that he's going to be far more what's the word? Basically, I think he's slightly shifting his role in a way where he's not been doing under Conte or any of the other millions of managers that we've had. But overall, I feel like the morale is up. There is a much higher pass accuracy than there ever was last season. Everyone is, I think, feeling a lot more confident in their positions. And I think that a huge part of this is it's a kind of blessing and a curse with Harry leaving because the only thing that is leaving me feeling anxious at the moment is that we could have had every game, we could have had at least 5 goals, but we're not finishing. And there's so much hesitancy when we're finally getting to those positions and we're setting it up. And then it's just taking a second and no one's quite brave enough to, or hasn't got the experience enough to finish. Richarlison is getting so frustrated at himself. And we're all just kind of frustrated with him. So I think Kane is missed, but I also think we would not be looking at this Tottenham if Kane was still here.
I think though you have to take context that you're looking at a manager who's been the best performing manager after this amount of games, best performing new manager ever in Premier League history, and you are in just a state that Tottenham fans and yourself probably can't even imagine, right, from last season. So you have to really give credit to the manager, credit to the players. And I have a kind of question for you just on one player who I think is silently making a bit of a difference with Tottenham, and that is a young man called Pape Sarr.
Today at the office, I was singing the Pape Sarr song.
I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with that song. How's it go?
Yeah, well, I didn't bring my beer to the pod, so you will not be hearing the song. One day, maybe, when we win the league. No, I think, Pape Sarr is incredible. He was a bit kind of unknown to us because we hadn't, Conte wasn't really starting him. I think the first time, because I saw him in the World Cup because he plays for Senegal, I thought he looked amazing in the World Cup. And then I think the first time I saw him was against Portsmouth in the FA Cup last January, and you couldn't take your eyes off him. Everyone was saying his name like he was the new big thing, and he's completely come into it this season. Goal against United, his first ever goal for Spurs at home against a huge club was, I think, for him especially because he's so young, it's just really cemented his sort of position with Spurs. And I think that's what's really nice actually, is that now would be the perfect time to join Tottenham when there's someone like Sonny as your captain who is just exudes positivity, someone like Ange who is probably the most kind of accessible, down to earth, easygoing person in Tottenham manager history, possibly bar Poch. So
he's the best
young
guy
players,
in the
it's
Prem.
amazing.
He's replaced Jurgen Klopp as a likeable, fun, charismatic manager. Jurgen Klopp's got grumpy with his older age.
He did tell Gary Neville a new one on the weekend. That was funny.
I loved that.
That was enjoyable,
If anyone on the pod didn't quite hear about this, you were talking about copying pet tactics earlier, and I think Carragher and Neville were having a bit of a shot at him for copying some pet tactics, and he said, "I do it, mate. I do it. Of course, I do. So does everyone." And Gary decides to pipe up and says, "Oh, I tried to copy pet tactics." And Ange, deadpan, says to him, "How did that go for you, mate?"
I loved it. And I loved it when they finally said goodbye and he walked away. This is like a few minutes after this had happened. He drops the mic, literally mic drop, and he goes, I'm going to go watch City now. And everyone was like,
He literally can do no wrong. I love the guy. Everyone loves the guy. I do feel like,
interestingly enough, I have heard, I listen to a lot of Talk Sport, so not that forms any of my stats or opinions that I bring into this pod. This is all unique, but they were talking about him on Talk Sport, Simon Jordan especially, and he was saying, what happens when things shift a little bit, and if Spurs do start losing, some of these deadpan comments he makes, and some of the very kind of they were saying he could turn into Klopp very quickly, where suddenly the media is perceiving all of these quite jokey and smart and deadpan remarks as being moody instead of what they are right now, which is just hilarious banter. So I wonder if the mood would shift if he did somehow start losing, and maybe the sort of edge would turn a little bit.
I'd be interested to see that as well. I think that I think he's approaching it with a little bit more humility, as he doesn't have the experience of managing a Premier League side. I think that there's also, I think what we've got to remember as well is that he's not from a footballing continent or country, rather. He's so many of our managers have played in Europe as players, or they've played in South America, or they've played, like, they have experience, they've lived their whole lives of football in whatever kind of profession of football it is within a football culture. And I think Ange's come from unusual circumstances in an unusual situation, and I think that if the media turns on him, I don't think it would. I think it would be there would be more public criticism of that, because he is not your regular manager.
That's fair.
You may be right there. The UK media has a very interesting way of turning on people that maybe who don't deserve it.
And I actually think that Andy's probably one of those people that would call that out. He doesn't seem to take shit from people.
He definitely would.
I believe this pod is owned by Jack. This pod is owned by, or should be sponsored at some point by, a media outlet, right? So we can't say any names here.
Yeah, you got to be careful, because the Athletics always trying to buy us, but we're just batting them away. Because we're like, independent, get out of here with your big corporation. Last question then, because we have to move on, because this is actually not a Tottenham podcast, but I'm interested. Are you going to win the league?
No, because I'm still a Tottenham fan after all. No, but as I was saying about kind of reshifting our expectations, I think we've got a shot at top 6, definitely. I think we want top 4. I think it's going to be interesting if we do end up qualifying for Champions League, because we won't have had as much rest time next season. Obviously, we've got to remember, I think Spurs are probably one of the only. But it's very obvious to see that we're not in any European competition. We've been knocked out the Carabao Cup already, obviously. And so we have huge amounts of time to be training and to be resting. And I think that has really contributed to our success at the moment.
Yeah.
And so in a way, I almost feel like winning an FA Cup would be like the absolute dream this season, and then to qualify for Champions. But to win it, I think would just stretch us too far right now.
You never know. You've got a good first team squad. Okay.
You do. Final question. Sorry, Jack. I know time is going. But for the Arsenal fans out there, will you be the second North London Invincible this season?
I actually...
Yes, no. Just say yes.
Yeah. Push for time. Yes or no? She's having a meltdown.
For fuck's sake.
Just say yes.
No comment.
That's a secret yes. So they're not going to win the league, but they are going to be invincible. God, it's going to be a lot of draws.
As always, the most important thing is finishing above Arsenal. I can't tell you how absolutely devastating it was to have lost 6-1 to Newcastle within 10 minutes of that game, for Arsenal to be looking like they were going to win the league, and for Pochettino to go to Chelsea. All of this happening on my birthday hangover weekend, I was just never felt worse. So we've come a long way. Let's say that.
You absolutely have. And yeah, on to teams that are struggling with balancing Europe. Newcastle 2, Wolves 2. And they were struggling. They looked tired. It was really wet and it was very Brexity. And I enjoyed it a lot. And I feel like Newcastle were tired. They've got a lot of injuries. I expect them to raid Saudi Arabia in January and buy Ruben Neves, at least 2 other players as well. Because guess what? They're owned by Saudi, so they can do whatever they want. They'll be like, we're having him, send it. Especially with the news of Tonali being out. I'd say Ruben Neves is almost a guarantee to move in January to Newcastle. But it's not about Newcastle because, they're not really it anymore, are they? Got that Saudi money now, so it irks me. So I'm going to praise Gary O'Neill instead, because I think Gary O'Neill is quietly, potentially, the second best English manager after Eddie Howe now. Better than Moisey. Better than, actually no, that's a lie. Third best because I fucking love Sean Dyche. But I think Gary O'Neill's actually doing a really good job because he's had 2 clubs. Bournemouth got banged 8-0 and he kept them up when all hope was lost. Wolves signed no players when he joined in the summer. Their owners were like, we have no money. So the old big name manager left. They were a mess, no goals, no nothing. And now he's got them 12th so far, competing. They beat City, and Pedro Neto is a top assist maker in the league this season. Hwang's got 6 goals. He never scored 6 goals in a whole season. He's turned all of these turds into excellent functioning players that all really care. And look at the state of Bournemouth now. They've got rid of him. So I feel like he's better than Scott Parker.
It's also fair to say they lost.
I was going to say he's better than Scott Parker. He's definitely better than Lampard. He's better than Gerrard. He's good. He's good. And he was on Match of the Day or Sky or something, and he was breaking down how he beat, I think it was Brentford or something last week. And you're just like, this guy, he gets it. He knows what he's doing. So I reckon he's going to be the next big club manager experiment that goes horribly wrong.
What do you think he's going to go to United?
Yes.
Ooh.
Or actually probably Chelsea.
Ooh.
Because,
How long do you think Pochettino's got at Chelsea?
Probably 2 more losses, realistically.
I've already said this, trust the process, but United would be very funny. But, I have to say they, as I tried to say twice, but I kept on cutting you up there, Jack. Sorry about that. My podness is rusty. But they also got rid of their best player, or they sold their best player to City. So we're literally looking at a Wolves who has Matheus Cunha as their number 1 striker, as well as Hwang Wee-Chan. So, how is it happening? I have no idea.
I think a large part of it is Pedro Neto back from long-term injury, and I think Pedro Neto is the kind of player that Liverpool should look at to replace Salah, that Spurs should look at to relieve the pressure of that front line. Chelsea would definitely he would slot into Chelsea's team. Man United, they need a right winger who contributes. I think his ceiling at 23 and to have 7 assists for Wolves, who are terrible, he's so good. He's going to be so good. He's a Champions League player playing in the bottom half for a team that can't score goals, and he's dragging them up. So, big fan. Anyone want to add anything on Newcastle Wolves? Not that asked? Because there's one more person I'd like to talk about if you're not asked. And his name is Sean Dyche.
Go on.
West Ham 0, Everton 1. I fucking love Sean Dyche. I just want to say it, the Brexit derby this game. This is Brexit football. Managers who just hate football, just playing. And they scored 1 goal, and it was a 6'4" centre-back charging into the midfield, winning a header, and then passing it to another massive striker to score. I'm like, I love that. And that's all I want to say about it. Everton are probably fucked because of financial fair play and the fact that they tried to claim basically about 10 years worth of losses in one go because of COVID. And they were like, this will be fine. Just send it through. Just expense it. It'll be fine. And it's not fine. But what it does open up with the possibility of Everton getting a 12-point ban for 1 financial fair play irregularity. What does that mean as a precedent for other clubs who might have more than 1 financial irregularity? perhaps 111 financial irregularities. Would it mean, here's my proposal, this is my radical proposal, and I'm very biased because I don't like Man City, and that's obviously very clear. Man City start on -12 every season for 111 years. Thoughts?
Yeah, why not?
Why not?
Or Man City have to sell Haaland to one of their competitors. It will be chosen at a roll of the dice, so it's luck of the draw, and Man
I
City have
love
to pay
that.
his wages.
I love that. I think that we should be like live broadcast to every single person in the whole of the country, and we all have to watch.
Imagine if
Watch his little face.
Imagine if you went to Luton or something like that, and it's just like
That would be
quality.
amazing.
That'd be such a good experiment.
I'd love it.
Or can Haaland get Sheffield United like to 17th? That'd be such a good social experiment.
But would Haaland even be enough, though?
No.
I think it would have to be. I think they should have to sell everyone, and then everyone donates like their worst player on the bench to go to them.
Or it could be like, their squad's about 20 players, right? So we'll say like basically everyone just gets one of the players, and it's just totally random, and that's it, really.
Mm-hmm.
They have to buy a whole new team.
So interesting.
And then their team becomes one of everyone else's team. So there's a swap
they get
for every single
Ndombele
person.
from Spurs. Yeah. They get Baba Rahman from Chelsea if he's still there. They get fuck knows, I don't know, someone shite from us as well. It'd be perfect. It's not going to happen. Then, all jokes aside, they're not going to get charged because it's too many charges, and they're Man City, and I hate them. On to other topics.
Bring back Voronin. Send him to City.
God, he was so terrible.
Quality player.
A ponytail and double denim. You know, it's like, bro, come on. I think at least try and look like a serious professional footballer. It just looks like a James Bond,
not like a serial killer.
Yeah. Okay, so before we wrap up, it's Ballon d'Or day today. I think we know who's going to win because some people say it's rigged. I personally think winning the World Cup and is a pretty good reason. But who do you think should win the Ballon d'Or? Bell and Joe, and why do you think that? Do you agree that it should be Messi and it will be Messi, or do you think it should be someone else?
Jude.
What a shout.
That's just it, Jude.
Say no more.
I want Jude, and I respect Messi, but I'm a bit bored. Sorry to say. I respect it. Like, this is what I mean. How long are they going to keep going for?
It's like you hate
I'm
football.
So sorry. I do hugely respect Messi.
Yeah, no, true. I mean, Jude is such a great shout, but I don't think, if we're thinking about Ballon d'Or as 2023, he did well at Dortmund. He's been smashing it at Real Madrid, but, and next year it's his. Give him it. He deserves it. This year, I think Haaland. For just beating that Premier League goal record for his ridiculous tally of goals in the Champions League. And I would love Messi to get it, but I think if you're playing in a Farmers League, you aren't going to be a superstar.
I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with that sentiment. I think, playing for PSG and then playing the second half of the season at Inter Miami? And they're still 14th or 13th. Yes. He did win the World Cup, which was sick because he did play a massive part of that. But Haaland did score 50 goals and win a treble, so it's quite hard to argue. Like, where's the balance? Surely, record-breaking
same
treble.
Question back to you then, Jack. What?
Yeah, I think Haaland should win it. He's had the most ridiculous season. But guess what? Everyone hates Man City, and no one cares. No one cares about your achievements, Man City. Just go home. So romantically, give it Messi because I don't want Man City to win any more stuff. But it should be Haaland.
Mm-hmm.
Statistically.
And then Jude next year.
Jude next year, for sure.
Jude definitely next year. Because, that was my final question. Is Jude Bellingham the best player in the world right now? Genuinely?
Yes.
Yeah.
He actually might be. It sounds outrageous, but who else is doing it big game, week in, week out, being the main man, getting man of the match? Not many.
After seeing the Clasico this weekend, that was just ridiculous. You know, he wasn't even in the game for a short while. It looked like Barcelona were all over it, and then suddenly that absolute hammer foot from outside of the box that
it was rude.
I don't even know. The goalkeeper saw it. The goalkeeper knew exactly where it was going. Could go nowhere near it, and then to do the score in the last minute and do that celebration in front of the Barcelona fans, like he just knows that he's it. He knows that he's the guy. Like he's just gone into Real Madrid and be like, Modric, don't worry, son. 500 games, don't worry, son. I've got Vinny Jr. Look, lads, you wanted me here. I've come.
Yeah.
Benzema, go just fuck off to Saudi.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because if you compare that to the way that Harry Kane celebrated his goal in the Bundesliga at the weekend, which was also a scary goal, and he was just like, barely smiling.
Gets no
I don't know if he's
goals.
just like really depressed that he's there. That was like a Beckham goal, which I loved.
Yeah, that was an excellent goal. It was tough for Kane as a final thought to be watching Tottenham be so good without him. Like, selfishly, you kind of hope that
every single night when I go
you
to
had
sleep.
a bigger impact. You'd be like, I was club captain, top scorer. They're going to struggle without me, and they're just better than ever. It must just hurt his pride. There's a scenario, an unlikely one, that Tottenham win the Premier League and Bayern don't win anything, and that will be outrageous for like the goodness of football.
No. So I've already planned the whole thing. So basically, Harry's going to win the Champions League. So he's got that this season. Spurs are going to win the Premier League, and then we need to win it without him. Like, we have to do that, and then Harry will come back once we've already established in our own right that we're not the Harry Kane team, and then it will just be goal, 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 goal. It would just be stunning. It would be like what they thought it would be like when Gareth Bale came back, but actually good.
What could go wrong?
That's a beautiful final thought for the day, and then fantastic. Just to round up the day, then Harry Kane, beautiful goal. Jude Bellingham, future Ballon d'Or winner, and Man City losing all of their players.
Chelsea trust the process.
And Chelsea trust the process. Yes. Just to finalise it, Chelsea to win the league in the next 3 years. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening.
Yes, I think Joe might be hungry. So
spot for closing off the game here.
I'm here for it, mate. I'm here for it. So thank you everyone for listening. Joe, thank you. Belle, thank you. They'll be back because they're excellent at talking about football. And thank you for listening. We'll see you next week. Goodbye.